Hi there, it's Todd Benko with Prairie Edge Service. Super happy today. I've got something to share with you that I just recently got in, and I've been waiting for this day to occur. Um, Super happy to present the Master with Shear Sharpening book. It's a comprehensive guide to flathone shear sharpening by Bonnie Megowan. Why am I so happy about this? I can't tell you enough reasons why. Um, Full disclosure, first of all, Bonnie asked me way back in January, February, and March to participate in the review and provide feedback to the content. I'm super honored to have that privilege. That I provided feedback, read where the content was at that point in time, provided valuable feedback. Um, it gave me some insight as to what she was hoping to achieve with this. So I'm super glad to be able to congratulate Bonnie on completing this project. This project is now finished. It's out and it's available to us as sharpeners. It's available to trainers. It is going to provide something that the sharpening community of hair shears needed a long time ago, but no one had. Everyone had certain facets, but honestly, there's no one that has had this content. Um, and the other thing is, I purchased this book. Bonnie did not give me this book, so my comments of this are both from my thoughts and process of what I've found when I did the review, but also after I got it, I've been going through and um, finding out what was the final version, that type of stuff. So I wasn't always aware of what Bonnie might have taken for my suggestions, and I'm super stoked now to say it's out and everyone has access to it. So I'd like to break this down into three parts. I'd like to talk about the pros or the advantages of what this book has to offer. Talk a little bit about what the book does not offer. The cons, like if you think that this is going to offer certain things, there are things that it will not. So let's talk, we'll talk second part, and then I'll give a summary of who and what I think the book is applicable to. So first of all, what is the biggest advantage to the book? Um, Primarily, I have to say it provides a foundation of sharpening basics and fundamentals. And I always say, like, for any task, any skill set, if you understand the basics and the foundation principles, when you get into problems and you're trying to learn the skill, always go back to your foundations, always go back to the basics. So when something goes wrong or you run into a problem, your knowledge of the foundations and basics will help guide you through to find a solution. So it's essential to have a good foundation and a good basics. And that's what this book does. Bonnie has broken the book down into two main sections. The first section is everything that goes into what a shear sharpener should know and comprehend about the shears. So it's a shear sharpening foundation, is what she calls it. And when she uh, debuted the book on the Sharpener's Jam, she sort of did a quick gloss through of the table of contents. And if you go onto Amazon, you can actually take a look at the first few sections that cover the table of contents to see what it is. But in essence, section one, it's understanding the shears, understanding the functions. Uh, she talks about the materials and the manufacturing. Every shear sharpener should understand the anatomy, all the different parts of the shear edges, the blade geometry, uh, the various types of tools that are used to grind and be part of the the sharpening process. What you might need to know and understand dealing with whetstones and sanding discs, angles and abrasives, and also what is the sharpening environment? What's the environment that you're going to be working on when you're dealing with the aspect of sharpening a set of shears, hair shears. The second section is basically walking through the sharpening task elements. So the first part in building foundations, it's not full of details. And this is what I really, really like about this. It's talking on a lot of different areas, subject areas. There's a lot of different topics that leave you with a well-rounded knowledge of shear variance or variances and configuration differences, so that when you get into the principles or the actual knowledge, she adds the details as you need to know them. So I think that is, she strikes a real right balance of subject detail versus information overload. How many times have I seen, a master reference book that gets into one area and talks about everything on that one topic, right from the initial introduction to the finite details of that section. And it's not to say that it's wrong, but it might be information overload, and then it overwhelms students um, from being able to comprehend everything. And that's what I like about this book, is that it's a building process. So she strikes the right balance. She adds detail where, when detail is required in the right place in the book. So one thing to really identify and emphasize if you do get this book is, don't go jumping around. Read the book in its progression. Read the section 1. Understand these principles, because there'll be some very vague terms, but there's a whole lot of different stuff, a whole lot of different concepts. Then when you get into the second section, actually understanding the various sharpening steps, there's additional details provided. And if you just jump into the section 2, the sharpening process steps, you may find that there's not quite as well covered, because it's, again, expanding in detail the points that need to be applied to each of those sections. So that's one of the things that I really, really like about this. The third one, or third element, is that Bonnie leaves the door open to options and variances. If any trainer turns around and takes this book as their reference for their students, guess what? Every person, even if I turned around and provided training to someone would come to me, I would use this book as saying, you need this book. First, you need to work through it, and then we'll get into the training aspects. Because, as I said earlier, there are steps that Bonnie does that don't exactly match with what I do, and I would teach my methodology or my recipe. And every trainer will do that, because there are certain reasons why we have our variances. And they're personal to us, but they're also personal to what we're trying to achieve. Everyone has different expectations and goals by what is your service level that you're trying to achieve for your client. And you may vary that depending on what your client's needs are. So the more experience that you get, you can understand how and where to make those changes. But this is a great starting step. It's a process that is laid out to provide you with success. What the book doesn't cover, so the negative or the con aspects of people If you get this book and expecting something more and you find out that, hey, this book doesn't quite achieve it, this is the part that I want to talk about in this. If, you know, the title Mastering Shear Sharpening can be a little bit interpretive. Some of the books that you find as masters may get into all of the technical jargon, the who, what, when, where, how, all of the science fundamentals, and that's what this book does not do. This book does not get into this specific detail of design, the specific detail of the manufacturer's or the engineer's purpose, function. So it's not the mastery of the shear itself, it's how to build the knowledge that a sharpener would need to do. So this is not going to provide you everything about the shear ability and the sharpening considerations. A big thing about this book is it does not replace in-person sharpening. This book complements. Different sharpeners will train in a different order, possibly saying which step goes first, which step is number 2, which step is number 3. That may be, and there's nothing really wrong with that. It's just that that's their approach to doing it through their experiences and their training that they had. The other thing too is that the tasks are general enough that, but may not provide all of the specific details in this. So all of the sharpening tasks are covered in here, but the detail is, people will probably say that they read it and they didn't get that much information out of it because it's about the foundation and the purpose behind that step rather than the detail of how to. No, this is not a how-to book. This is more of the foundation of understanding the hows and whys that step is done and some of the key elements to look for while you're doing those steps. So this is a complement to in-person training. It does not replace it. Another thing is that the book provides a huge array of subject content, but it doesn't provide any mastery or detail on many of these areas. It makes you aware that there might be these things that could have variances. It doesn't necessarily go into all the details of the things to be aware of. Like if you're looking at a specific task of doing the ride line, it talks about the key elements that you might be situation aware, but it doesn't list them all. So there are things that as you grow and become more experienced that you will understand that there is more to learn than what's just provided by the content in this book. What else? The details, I've got notes here that I'm trying to work through. Details about specific tasks to achieve successful results. So there's just enough meat in the material so that you can achieve successful results. It doesn't mean that every type of situation that you encounter with a set of shears is going to be provided. You know, this isn't going to be the Bible that if you have this type of problem, if you have a worn out ride line, if you have a blown out tip, what else? If you have a gap in the ride line. This book doesn't cover all of the aspects. But the real interesting part about this, as I said, as an advantage or a pro to the book, is Bonnie strikes the right balance between critical comprehension for the new sharpener, gives you the right information that you need to be, that you have a higher success rate of being successfully achieving a sharpening based on what you're learning at that first introductory stage. So it's the right balance for that critical comprehension. So it's not all of the facets are not covered. So that's, again, it's not the catch all, end all, provide all the answers book. The other thing, and the final thing that I'll say the book is not, is that it does not cover many advanced tips and tricks. So it's not within the purpose and scope of this book. This book is to, again, provide that basic foundation and basics principles of knowledge that a person starting out in shear sharpening has to learn and has to understand and be able to use that, because with those principles, and she adds just enough of the information that there's an insight that there exists a whole lot more advanced skills, advanced understanding that you need to learn or branch out to want to learn to deal with these advanced problems. Because I consider shears to be one of the most uh, technical or most advanced or um, simple machines that are there. Everything on a hair shear is curved. How do you go about dealing with everything has to come together at the right point, at the right place, with the right tension in order for that shear to cut. So there's a lot going on. And if any one of those three elements that go into that are out of balance, the shear will not cut. Doesn't matter how much you sharpen the outside. Doesn't matter how much you work on the inside ride line. Doesn't matter how much you deal with the tension or the set of the blades. If any one of the elements is not in harmony with the other ones, the shear just will not perform for you. So that's where the foundations become so important to building your success at becoming a good sharpener. So in summary, this is getting long. I want to talk about in summary who will benefit by purchasing this book. There's a whole bunch of people. The first person and the target person that I think the book is aimed for is the novice sharpener. Someone who is already sharpening and wants to learn or branch into sharpening hair shears. If that is you, this book is targeted directly for you. It's what I consider an essential element to your success. Why? Because the book builds the foundation of your knowledge and helps you expand your knowledge and your comprehension to work with the shears so that you have success rather than hope or failure. And there's nothing worse than starting to go down the path and having failure after failure, and you think that you understand something and it just doesn't come together. This book is that reference guide. And I think you need to purchase it before you go for training. I think you need to read the entire thing before you go for training. And when you go for training, that your trainer can turn around and use this so that they know you have a foundation already built, that you can talk in same terms, that now your in-person training can be spent more on skills knowledge transfer, skills transfer, rather than knowledge or theory transfer. I think the other person, if you're sort of a person that's on the fence and you don't know whether or not sharpening shears is beyond your skill level, I think this book will answer that question. There are people that if you go through and read this and you say, you know what, there's a lot happening to this, and you go through and read it and you understand, and you said, you know what, this just doesn't have a fit for me. It's better to get the book and learn and understand that before you go down the process of buying a whole bunch of equipment, going down paying for training, and then coming back and saying, you know what, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I'm, there's a lot of details. There's attention to detail to sharpening hair shears. And I had a fellow sharpener who did that in my own city. He turned around and bought a flathone, bought all the necessary equipment. He did online training, and only to come to realize that shear sharpening was not within his realm of comfort after he realized what are all the things that go into it. So it's better to go and invest in a book like this and expose yourself to the information, expose yourself to the knowledge that would be required, expose yourself to the comprehension that might apply, and it'll save you from making a very expensive path that you may end up coming to the point where it's not applicable to you. It doesn't appeal to you. It doesn't work with the way your mind works. So it'll save you money. So again, anyone that's thinking about getting into it, that's what this book is designed for. And if you do go down that path, this book now, when you've finished, is your reference guide. Because when you go and do your training, guess what? You're filled with all the skills. You're going to forget stuff. You're going to be on your own. Who do you call? Well, you got this as your backup. You can always go back to this to review, to renew your comprehension in certain areas. So that's why I say that's what this book is designed for. The next person that I say is every sharpener trainer. This book is designed. I think that every person who does and offers training in shear sharpening should be saying, this is your book for all their students, that get their students, because it will provide the basics and the foundation in that shear knowledge so that you're not having, as a trainer, trying to provide or build, because every one of us has certain pieces of the puzzle. No one's there prior to this point. No one has really written down all the stuff that Bonnie has. So that's where I think that every trainer needs to use this as part of their training curriculum, and that by implementing that, you will increase the probability of success for your students. I think that the book will go a long way to helping standardize the required knowledge and increasing the skill level of and success of students being able to achieve proper sharpening for hair shears. It doesn't matter if it's for the barber industry or the hair salon industry or the grooming industry, that it's raising the bar for people to be successful in reducing the chance of people not being qualified, not having the right knowledge, not having the right skill set to sharpen hair shears and damaging them. The third part about it is that when the students come to you by implementing this book, it gives you the chance to talk in the same language, and it allows you to focus as a trainer on the skills transfer. It complements everyone's training plan and in-person training. Another person that I think this book applies to is stylists and groomers. There are stylists that I've gone to that are truly want to understand what are the steps that I go through to sharpen their shears. These are what I I know Bonnie's referred to people as eagles, gorillas, and lions. And there are some of these stylists who truly want to understand how their shears work, but also understand without the detail of what the sharpener needs to do to sharpen their shears. They don't want to know those specific things, but by diving in and seeing what those principles are, it gives them the ability to have confidence and question their sharpener, whether or not they are a fully experienced and fully qualified sharpener. So I encourage stylists and sharpeners, or stylists and barbers and groomers, to consider purchasing this book, because now you will have a foundation of what an experienced sharpener should have. And you can draw upon knowledge from the book to be able to qualify your sharpeners. And I think that's a great thing. The experienced sharpener, you're probably the person who has the least to gain from the book. It doesn't mean you can't gain by learning the book, because every one of us, even if you've been sharpening for 20 years, there are things that are in this that you may have become, because of your type of focus, or the equipment that you're using has only been like a twice as sharp, and you've been doing bevels, but you've been not doing, you've never had a flat hone, and you want to learn how to take your sharpening to the next step. The book will help you get there. So I think all of these people have much to gain by purchasing the book. That being said, every person that does buy the book, especially those that are in sharpening, we as sharpeners will forget stuff. We go for a training, you remember the things, you're focusing on the skills, and guess what? You're going to forget stuff. Something's going to happen. Problems are going to occur. You're going to be able to continue using this book as a reference after you finish your training, and it's going to help you find a way through those problems, because a lot of the problems always come back to basics and fundamentals. Yeah, to end this video, I hope you find this information useful, and I hope that it answers some questions about the content and why I am so pleased that and congratulate Bonnie on this huge accomplishment, and why I see this as a huge benefit to the shear sharpening industry. Because, you know, like, if I even just go through the book, you know, there are, there's a huge wealth of information. I like the fact that she has these questions sections. There is the way that it's laid out. There's, you know, the pictures, there's the content, there's the detail. So like I said, I really hope that this provides some answers about what is contained within the book. And I think that if you were on the fence about whether or not this would apply to you, I hope that it helps answer some of those questions. If you have other questions, feel free to put them in as comments, and I'll try to provide some guidance to anything that I've covered through this. Thank you for taking the time today and taking an interest in both the book and if your general interest in shear sharpening. And with that, I'll say thanks, and we'll see you in the next video. Have a great day.